Welcome back to our channel. On today's video, we're going to be exploring this little part of Florida right outside of Venice. Now, you guys have seen videos of downtown Venice and the beaches of Venice, so we're not going to show you that on today's video. Today, we're going to focus on the outskirts of Venice, the suburbs. This is one of the fastest growing areas of Florida, and we've had a lot of requests for this video. You're probably going to be surprised when you see how much this area has grown and all the buildings and new projects that have gone in. So this is definitely a video you don't want to miss, especially if you're thinking about moving to Florida, since I would say this is definitely one of the best places to live in the entire state. Being right outside of Sarasota, Venice is a small town, but it's growing tremendously. It's one of the safest places you can put your family. So we're going to tell you some of the pros and some of the cons. So we're going to explore this area and give you updates on what's going on here. Right off the exit, we got off at this Publix, and there's a woman holding a sign with a child. She is a panhandler. Now these are, I think they're, excuse me if I use the wrong terminology, but people refer to these as gypsy traveling scam artists, or most people would also hear the term Romani. Most of the time when I've met them, they're going to be from Spain or from Albania, somewhere in Europe, and they're going to speak Albanian or Spanish. Wherever they come from, the point is that they are traveling scam artists and that they're going to use their kids as bait to get you to give them money on the side of the road. And this has been a reoccurring theme all along South Florida, and I've seen it a lot in Ocala too. They're just traveling scam artists that go around pretty much begging people for money. And unfortunately, they use their kids as a sort of bait to get empathy out of people, but you should never give them any money. This area really has a lot of great things in store for us, so let's not let that overshadow the entire trip. But it does suck that as soon as we got off the highway, the first plaza we went to, that was the first thing we saw. And it is my first time seeing that in Venice. I have seen it in Ocala and many other places. And again, they travel from place to place, so it's hard to exactly know where they're at. I've seen them in North Naples as well. It's basically an organized scam racket. There's a few older neighborhoods in South Venice as well. Most of this video is going to be in the area south of Venice. This is what those older neighborhoods look like. Kind of charming houses with large trees. Let's take a quick ride through some older neighborhoods and see what they look like. From there, we get on US 41 southbound, where there's a lot of new communities going in. One of them, by the name of Wellen Park, is actually one of the biggest communities going into Florida right now. You wouldn't believe not only how much is going into this area, but how nice, elegant, and prestigious these neighborhoods look. So we're going to drive down US 41 heading south into a new area called Wellen Park. If you look it up on Google Maps, well, you're not going to see anything because it's all new construction. Driving down US 41, you'll start to notice new communities left and right. Big palm trees, a lot of Royal Cuban palm trees. So you know you're entering nice neighborhoods. But really, not even I was prepared to see how much had been built in this area since the last time I was out here. I thought it was just a medium-sized community, but when I pulled up and I saw how much was going in, it was really impressive. It's a beautiful area. You got beaches, you got kind of a serene, quiet setting. It's not as hectic as other parts of Southwest Florida. So if you're looking for like a quiet retirement, like a place that's just more laid back, more chill, less congestion, this is definitely it. In fact, when we drove into the community, it almost felt like a ghost town, which it's a little eerie to see an area this new and this expansive feel so empty. But at the same time, if you're going for a quiet walk, you may not want all that traffic and congestion. You may just want a place where occasionally you might see somebody walking or somebody walking a dog or riding a bicycle. It's really a laid back place, kind of off the beaten path, not as congested, and perhaps a lot of people are looking exactly for that. I'm on the north end of the Sarasota metropolitan area, and where I'm at, there's a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion, and I even feel like it's a little bit too much. So I personally wouldn't mind living in a place that's this quiet, less traffic. But the great thing is, despite the fact it's quiet, you still have access to a lot of great businesses. Many years ago, there was nothing in this region of Florida. Anything between Venice and Punta Gorda or Port Charlotte was just kind of vacant, but they've built so much in this area. It really has a lot to offer today. And at the same time, despite having easy access to all shopping and amenities that you would want, it still isn't overcrowded. The population density here is thin. There's a lot of green areas, a lot of golf courses. It's just kind of very thinly spread out. And there's a lot left to be built in. Sure, in the future, maybe it could become like a Lakewood Ranch. But I'll tell you, I like living in Lakewood Ranch, but it feels more like a city here than a suburb at this point with how much it's grown. So if you're thinking about the Southwest Florida area, a place like Sarasota, but you don't want to be in the middle of a hectic place, then this is definitely the go-to place, especially if you want a quiet retirement. Big infrastructure projects like the one you're looking at here are the types of things that continually grow a community. One of the biggest drawbacks of a lot of the growth in Florida is that they put in a lot of single family home construction, but they really were lacking in big infrastructure projects. These bigger investments are the ones that guarantee that the community has a future, that there'll be events in the community, that there'll be job opportunities. And well, these are the types of things that I think are a positive promoter for future growth and for families that move to this part of Florida to have things to do, activities, all that matters. And while it's good to see that there's not just single family home construction going in, this is one of the biggest drawbacks, again, with many of the growing areas in Florida. Sure, they're putting in a lot of single family homes, but what about things to do? What about recreational activities? What about employment options? Personally, I had no idea they had built an entire stadium for this community, so it's good to see that. So as you can see here, there's a lot of great things happening in the Venice area, from shopping, new stores, things to do, beautiful palm trees, blue skies. If you're thinking about Florida, this is a great option. I personally love these big shopping centers with palm trees in all directions, just open spaces where you can see the blue sky to the horizon. It's one of my favorite things about Florida is these new developments, and I know a lot of people think they lack character, but personally, I love places like this, just wide open spaces. And this area really isn't too far from the beaches of Minnesota Key next to Englewood, Florida. You also have the Mayaca River. You have US 41 for infrastructure coming through the area. You got the Sarasota National Golf Course. This area really does have a lot to offer. Now, while the closest beach to here is Minnesota Key, Katie and I wanted to check out Boca Grande, which is a little bit further of a drive, close to 40 minutes. Boca Grande is one of the most beautiful islands in Florida, kind of an exclusive little island right by the water. They had a lot of damage from Hurricane Ian, so we're going to drive down that way and see what that area looks like. The last time we were in Boca Grande was right after Hurricane Ian, covering the damages, and it seemed like they had a combination of very strong winds as well as some storm surge, and it was complete devastation on the island. So let's run down there and see what Boca Grande looks like. And it is about a 40-minute drive, so we got to go through some wooded areas to get there. So from Wellen Park to the closest beaches are going to be about 20 to 25 minutes. But I really love Boca Grande, and I've been curious on their recovery from the hurricane. So we took the extra long route to the furthest beach out here, simply because we really wanted to see it. The Mayaca River is known to overflow its banks quite often anytime there's a storm surge or flooding event. Therefore, you can assume that along the banks of the Mayaca River, it's mostly empty, which makes for a nice setting of a rural drive. On the left is an area called Rotonda West, and it's a nice area with a lot of new homes going in. You can see that new home construction is taking place there on the left. At the end of the video, we'll take a drive through that particular neighborhood. But for now, let's keep riding along towards the beach. If you notice, we just passed another Publix. This little area is called Cape Hayes. It's a great little coastal community. This area here is very close to where Hurricane Ian made landfall, so you'll start to notice a lot of landscaping destruction. Finally, we approach Boca Grande, and there is a $6 toll to get on the island. The toll also serves as a security gate for the island, as it's fairly exclusive. To the left of us is one of the most popular places for people boating to hang out in all of Southwest Florida, and they were throwing huge parties here. That is why, if you pay attention, they posted up signs on the side of the road. Before Hurricane Ian, you could actually just park your car on the side of the road here and party on the side of this highway. Now, there are signs saying no trespassing, which means that if you want to use the beach, you have to keep going all the way to the island, where you do have to pay for parking again. This area to the left of us is called the Boca Grande Sandbar, and it is an absolute favorite destination for boaters. Real estate in Boca Grande is fairly expensive, and it's said that there's a lot of old money here, so it really has an exclusive feel. Again, that toll booth acts almost as a security gate for the island, and despite the fact it's all the way up here between Sarasota and Charlotte County, surprisingly, it is really part of Lee County, Florida. However, It is only accessible through Charlotte County. It's said that a lot of the old money that used to be in Naples, Florida, moved up to Boca Grande, and it was kind of like a secret place, exclusive just for those who could afford the outrageous real estate prices. There's also a few islands along the coast here that can only be reached by boat, and we can assume that the guests on these islands are definitely going to want the absolute most privacy. It's rumored that famous people, perhaps politicians and other people with tremendous wealth, are fans of these islands. Since it cannot be reached by vehicle, you have to have a boat to get onto these islands. While on Boca Grande, you'll want to drive slowly and pay close attention, as the vast majority of the people driving out here are actually using golf carts. Real estate on this island is not particularly affordable, and the vegetation is one of the biggest assets that this island has. As you'll see further on in the video, there are some very large banyan trees, some of the largest banyan trees that I've seen anywhere in Florida outside of Miami-Dade County. It really is a joy to drive through these streets and see the beautiful vegetation, giant banyan trees. Parking on the island beach at the southern end is going to cost you $3. We did not have any cash. Luckily, there's a code you can scan and you can pay with your card. If it wasn't for that, I don't know what we would have done, because all we had was a $20 bill. Couldn't put that in a $3 bag. Anyways, it is called the honor system. You'll find that through many unmanned beaches in Florida, where you volunteer honorably to pay $3, $6, or even up to $9, depending on the beach, to park yourself. You'll also find these iron soldiers, as they're called, in some of the other state parks. So we pull up to the beach. Let's go out there and see what it looks like. And it was really disappointing. These are supposed to be baby blue crystal clear waters. And as we've known, Southwest Florida's water quality, especially towards the southern end, has been horrible in the last little bit. Not only have hurricanes been a problem, so has the red tide. And the water here today has this nasty water. The Gulf waters should never look this color. And unfortunately, this is what a lot of the Gulf waters have been looking like lately. You're supposed to be looking at transparent, crystal clear waters. And this is the biggest drawback that this area has. The Venice area has had to deal with red tide, I think, more than anywhere else in Southwest Florida. And the water quality here is simply not what it's supposed to be for being in the Gulf of Mexico. Once you get to about Siesta Key and Sarasota, moving into Bradenton Beach, the water clarity gets a lot better. But Venice, Lee County, really the waters here have been in really bad shape. I can't really recall in many years of living down here the water quality being as bad as it's been lately. And there's still a lot of hurricane debris left along the coast. Like I found this red brick which had been washed away, and you can see that the water's movements have worn down this red brick. Perhaps it was one of the original buildings here on the island. I'm not sure, but I tossed it right back to the sand. Overall, near Venice, Florida, the sand isn't the clearest either. You'll have to head further north into Siesta Key to find pristine white sands. Around here, the sands are kind of gray or yellowish. To be fair, the shelling here is incredible, and in Boca Grande, the sand is almost perfectly white. It's a little further north towards Venice, where it takes a yellow color, and around Minnesota Key, a grayish tone, and it does get very hot. You gotta be careful if you're barefoot on a hot day. Alright guys, so this is the area that I mentioned earlier in the video we would take a closer look at on the way back. This area is called Rotonda West, and it's kind of an underdeveloped area, but there's a lot of new home construction going in. If you're looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house or even bigger, there's a lot of new construction here. I don't like to shove it down people's throats, but as you guys know, my beautiful wife Catherine is a luxury real estate agent in this region of Florida. So if you're looking to retire in Florida and are interested in this particular area, feel free to reach out to my wife Catherine and she'll be glad to help you. Catherine's contact information is in the video description below. She also has her own YouTube channel. I'll list all that in the description of the video and you can go follow her. And remember, she'll be glad to help you with anything you need in Southwest Florida.